Chopin's 20th Nocturne in C-sharp minor, published posthumously, is a brooding piano solo that boasts, perhaps unsurprisingly, facets quintessential to Chopin nocturnes. These qualities in Chopin's nocturnes have long fascinated me as a composer. Simple in design and modest in development, they demonstrate that complexity and quality are not synonymous. Instead, it is about doing enough and doing that enough to a high standard. In this article, therefore, I want to break down Chopin's composition, not necessarily so that I can write like Chopin or write a romantic composition or nocturne. Instead, I want to see what Chopin does, how he arranges his ideas and develops them, how he accompanies those ideas, how he controls development, and how these things can be generalised for composition today. Therefore, I will start by offering an overall breakdown of Nocturne No. 20 before taking a closer look at Chopin's main melody in the piece and how he develops those ideas. To finish, I'll look over his harmony and how he creates a discombobulated, dreamlike feeling through his use of progressions and chromaticism. Chopin's 20th Nocturne is a short-form piece that uses ternary structure. A ternary structure is merely a composition that has the same or similar idea that starts and closes the composition. Often labelled as A sections, these crucially flank a middle section or B section that presents new or different ideas. A ternary structured composition, therefore, could be reduced to the letters ABA, with the letters reflecting different thematic ideas. Nocturne No. 20 structure is communicated primarily by theme, though not exclusively, meaning the outer A sections use the same or similar melodic material. For instance, my structural breakdown labels each theme of the A section as 1A, 1B and 1C. The lowercase letters distinguish subtle variations to each iteration of the melody, which we'll look at more closely later. Following an introduction, themes 1A and 1B comprise the opening A section, while 1C is a form of recapitulation that follows the middle B section. Theme 1C also transitions into the closing codetta. The use of multiple themes in the middle section evokes a quasi-improvised or through-composed feeling to me. Furthermore, I think the use of ternary over sonata is significant in the overall shape and feel of this composition, evoking a wistful dreamlike mood distinctive of many romantic 19th century pieces. To have a development section would break this feeling. The composition is unmistakably a Chopin nocturne because of its ternary structure that introduces new ideas in its middle section. Beyond changes in theme, Chopin uses other devices to extend the contrast between A and B sections of this nocturne. Texturally, at first glance, the composition is limited. However, in the B section, Chopin subtly varies the texture by adding a brief counter-melody to theme 2. Adding the second voice breaks the monotony of the two-part melody and harmony texture while not starkly changing the textural form of the piece. Diversifying the texture in this way allows Chopin to maintain the quintessential nocturne mood of rolling left-hand accompaniment and bel canto melody while varying the texture enough to maintain interest. While I want to focus on harmonic language across the piece further, in the B section, although not limited to this section, Chopin modulates, bringing further variation. The music moves to A major and then to F sharp minor while exposing theme 2. Chopin then moves to G sharp major when introducing theme 3. These keys are remarkably close in proximity, which I will discuss shortly. The key takeaway here is that modulation and tonality are a means of further contrast, which Chopin uses in Nocturne No. 20. Easily forgotten, Chopin also uses tempo to bring contrast to his ideas. For example, the nocturne opens with the marking lento, which instructs a performer to play slowly. The edition I use from IMSLP also gives a metronome marking of 69 crotchet beats per minute. Interestingly, the first tempo change of 2 in the middle section is approximately a third faster than the opening lento metronome marking, or in reverse, 69 is exactly 75% of 92. At bar 33 and the introduction of theme 3, the score instructs animato with a metronome marking crotchet equals 160 beats per minute. Theme 3 is a sparse melody and the focus in a way is placed on the left hand. The effect is stirring and builds a sense of ambiguity and anticipation for what is to come next. It feels as though the piece could go one of two ways: back on itself, which it does, or into more contrasting material. Without seeing an original manuscript or first edition, I can't say that Chopin did not give these precise and related metronome markings. However, to me it does not feel like it would be something a 19th century composer such as Chopin would do. In conjunction with this, however, it does feel like something that a 20th century editor would do, especially the relationship between the two tempos, as I mentioned earlier, the 69 beat per minute and the 92, and them being 75% of one of the other. Either way, however, I found these markings interesting, and authentic or not, they reveal a fascinating way in which we can think about and relate tempos ourselves, especially given that tempo can easily be neglected. In this nocturne, theme 1, which we highlighted in the overview of the piece's form, appears 3 times across the piece. In the first A section it appears twice, and in the last A section once. The first 2 appearances, labelled theme 1A and B, are 8 bars in length, comprising 2 4-bar phrases. Theme 1C is longer, boasting an additional 4-bar phrase that transitions into the closing coup d'etat of the composition. Despite this extra phrase, I want to focus on the first 2 phrases of this theme, which relate to the entirety of the other 2 melodies, as they demonstrate how Chopin uses embellishment and reharmonization to develop his musical ideas. In the figure on screen, I have highlighted pitches that are the same or similar in blue. In the opening 4 bars of the 3 themes, the broader brushstrokes of the melodies are the same, and 1B and 1C are replicas. However, there are subtle variations between themes 1A and the other 2 in these first 4 bars. For example, themes 1B and 1C extend the ornamentation of their second group of appoggiaturas. The result is a kind of inverted turn, whereas 1A's appoggiaturas only rise to the G sharp. Strictly speaking, an inverted turn would only start on the F sharp 1 pitch below, and not 2. Slight, these details are cumulative, making the theme similar enough for listeners to hear the similarities, but also different enough for us to appreciate them. Chopin uses comparable variations for the antecedent phrases of 1A and 1C. The same material again, the addition of a trill and appoggiaturas in bar 6 create further subtle variation. In a shorter form piece such as this nocturne, this lighter embellishment could be enough variation alone. However, Chopin uses the same technique more expansively, pairing it with a technique called reharmonization, which is simply the changing of the harmonies underneath the same melody. For example, in bar 3, themes 1, B and C are the same. Starting and ending on the same pitches, albeit in different octaves, one can see how they are melodically related. They are embellishments of theme 1A's bar 3. Furthermore, each being more scalic and spanning 2 octaves, the pitch content of each serves to elucidate the changed underlying harmony between bars 3 and 4 and the perfect cadence in F sharp minor, the subdominant of C sharp. In the score at bar 7 and 8, which is bar 3 and 4 of theme 1A, we can see the underlying harmony for the simplified exposition of the melody. The progression is C sharp, the major tonic, to D sharp diminished 7, which is the supertonic diminished 7, whereas at bar 15 to 16, which is the same bars but in theme 1B, the harmony becomes C sharp 7 to F sharp minor, or if we read it as a perfect cadence in F sharp minor, it would be a dominant 7 to 1. Chopin uses the embellished melodies of 1B and 1C to preempt this harmonic shift into F sharp minor. Both explicitly use notes of F sharp melodic minor in descending motion over the C sharp 7 chord. The takeaway as a composer here is that the harmony, both in the moment and part of a progression, can be undermined or strengthened by the pitch material you use above it. For Chopin, this is stylistically and effectually apt. For us or another composer, it could be desirable to add more chromaticism, as Chopin does in the consequent of theme 1C, or even juxtapose pitch material of a different tonality, atonality, or modality. Chopin uses aspects of common practice harmony in a way that is not too tonally assertive. For example, the opening progression immediately invites chromaticism via a German sixth in C sharp minor that resolves to G sharp as part of an imperfect cadence. In this way, we feel C sharp minor for its non-resolution and a feeling of progression from C sharp minor towards G sharp. Moreover, while 5 ones occur, they rarely happen cadentially in this piece, coinciding with a melodic phrase end. Instead, it is as though the harmony is responding to the melody above it as it's happening, as opposed to knowing where it's going to lead and guide us there with that underlying harmony. One of the strongest cadences occurs between bar 15 and 16, where Chopin modulates to F sharp minor. However, as part of a modulation, it is less like a full stop and more a comma. In other words, the musical point asserted does not require punctuation, but a momentary breaking point between progressions of the idea. Chopin introduces the idea of F sharp and proceeds directly into it. Again, the tonality is relatively clear in where it is, but the harmony is never assertive in the way it communicates the tonality. The progression that accompanies the sparse theme 3 or animato section is a great example of how the harmony only ever places a single foot in each tonal area that it visits. For instance, the progression features a clear dominant 7 to tonic in G sharp. That is quite assertive. However, taking into account the progression as a whole, Chopin uses the French sixth of C sharp in the 4-bar harmonic sequence. The chromatic relationship rattles the tonal foundations put forward by the dominant 7-1. In a sense, Chopin has one foot in G sharp, but a tippy toe in C sharp minor too. Before wandering too deeply into the theoretical, how does our analysis relate to us as composers today? The key takeaways for me are that what we do early, particularly in a shorter form composition, sets the tone and flexibility or stability of the rest of the piece. That's not to say we cannot break the tone we set, but rather that is its own creative choice. If we are to have fluidity, then making significant changes time to unfold. Therefore, in a short composition, unless the contrasts are stark or happen across most of the composition, what we do early can impact what we do later. Another takeaway is that harmony happens both in a moment and across moments, or in other words, it happens vertically and horizontally simultaneously. The reharmonization extracts of theme 1A and variant 1B demonstrate this concept. For example, the use of C sharp major happens in a moment, brightening the harmony. However, by that analogy, brightening is a process that unfolds over time, a series of moments. To brighten, we must move from relative darkness. Chopin moves us from minor to parallel major. The last takeaway from our analysis is a technique for developing and distributing thematic material, or other ideas for that matter. If we create a melody, for instance, we can use that melody over and over, especially if the repetitions occur one after the other. Therefore, rather than repeat the material, which could become tiresome, we can leave some parts intact and vary or change others. For example, with theme 1, Chopin embellishes to varying extents certain bars or adds ornamentation to some notes. For the consequent of theme 1b, he composes new material rather than writing new material. Consequently, Chopin provides consistency, familiarity and vitality.